Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome. We're going to be reacting to a video today. This is a video put out by a channel called Estranged Parents by a woman who is very clearly a toxic, narcissistic mother. And it's very, I'm just going to tell you guys now, it is very triggering for people if you've grown up with a mother like this. Okay, so those of you who have been following the channel for a long time, you are probably familiar with my mother. You've heard some stories about her and about my past. You're aware of her narcissism and how that has affected me. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to play the video. I'm going to give my commentary, and then I'm not the only person who has noticed this, shall we say. So she has put out a response, and we'll talk about that too, because, you know, the narcissist's lack of self-awareness causes them to tell on themselves, if you will. And so you'll see that throughout the video. So let's go ahead and start with the first video. She put this out, and the reason that I'm doing a video about this also, number one, not just because I felt like it triggered me, but because her first video that she put out, let me see how many views it has now. Over 900,000 views it has, and she is presenting herself as a victim, and she's also presenting herself as a teacher, right? So she is offering a community and like paid memberships and stuff to other quote unquote estranged parents. That just seems to be her giving advice for toxic, narcissistic, abusive people for how to like continue to try to like hassle their grown adult children who have gone no contact with them and do not want them in their lives. And I just think that that's very dangerous. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll start with her first video that she put out 2 months ago, and it's called "My Daughter Stopped Talking to Me," and then in parentheses it says, "So I let her go." And that is a lie, as you'll see from watching the video. She clearly hasn't let go of anything. And well, you'll just see. Let's go ahead and get into it.
I really thought I could get through this without crying.
Okay, so the video opens with she's crying, and then you can hear this kind of like inspirational, like emotional music in the background. Like it's very dramatic, you know, emotional music going.
27% of American adults have cut contact with a family member, lasting an average 4.5 years.
I never dreamed I'd be part of that statistic.
Okay, so the beginning of her video, of her first video on her channel, which is called Estranged Parents, and it is offering, like I said, a community for quote unquote estranged parents that people can pay to join. So she is right off the bat making money off of this, or attempting to. So you have to question the authenticity of her emotions just on that regard. And then beginning the video, and just the way that the video is done, rather than talking about like, this is what happened with me and my daughter, this is why my daughter has gone no contact with me, this is what she said, we're getting a sort of like I don't know what you would call like a video essay format here. She's kind of doing like a highly produced video essay type thing, and we're getting these statistics about estrangement, which are, okay, these are general statistics, but what about your situation specifically? And she says, I never thought that I would be basically part of these, I never thought I'd be part of these statistics, is what she says.
Have you seen this?
Dear parents, I need to speak my truth.
Okay, here's the other thing. that I have to comment about. And I'm going to go ahead and say here that I have watched this video to completion. I've already seen it. So I know what I'm going to be reacting to and what I want to say about this, because as I watched this the first time, I was kind of in a disbelief, and I thought we could be watching parody or something. And then she put out more videos, and I realized that, like, this is not parody. This is real. And you know, she's using this kind of like video essay format, but also sort of like documentary style format, where she's like, fall of 2020, you know, we're going to do a timeline here. But notice that the timeline doesn't start with, like, we're not really hearing anything about what happened leading up to this, but she has this, she does a reenactment. This is another thing too, which I think just kind of shows, like I said, they reveal themselves. The narcissism is she and the father are doing video reenactments of receiving this letter from their daughter, where she is explaining that, you know, dear parents, whatever. And we don't know what's in the letter. We don't know, because she won't say, and she hasn't showed the letter. But what she's trying to do is she's trying to make it about politics. And so she is trying to present her adult daughter as an immature, woke, you know, and just the way that she presents her and how she portrays the daughter in this video is so disrespectful. And I would say to people, you know, who are more conservative or right-wing or something like that, politics has nothing to do with this. This woman's behavior it's very clear, like throughout the video, that she claims this is 90% about politics, her daughter going no contact. You can see that that is clearly not true, and I suspect that's why she doesn't want to present the actual letter. But listen to the voice. So first of all, how much time and energy has she put into creating this? We find out later, but you know, when I'm watching it, the first, that's what I'm thinking, right? The first time I'm watching this is like, wait a second, how much time are you dedicating to creating this video to publicly smear your victim, right? The victim of your, you know, persistent, years-long toxic behaviors. This person who has, as an adult, made the decision to cut you out of their life, most likely because of your toxic behaviors that are on full display for all of us to see throughout this. But the mother is, you know, self-victimizing, but you can tell how she tries to diminish, you know, the daughter's position here, right? Like of making it seem like it's about one thing when it isn't, and then also infantilizing her with this voice, making it sound like she's a 15-year-old petulant child saying, I need to speak my truth. Show us the letter. Does she even say that in the letter?
All my life, I've been gaslit about what I need to say. I need you to know.
So we are seeing the word, you gaslit me, guilt trip me, hurt my mental health. These are the few things we're seeing come up on the screen. Again, we need to see the full letter.
How you're hurt my mental health. It's bad. Have my life ruined because of you.
And so she's got that, again, the dramatic music in the background. But if you look at her face here in this reenactment thing, does she seem like she's that, like, hurt? You know, she's reading the letter. She's supposed to be reading the letter, but it doesn't seem like the letter itself is really affecting her at all. Like, it doesn't seem like she has any emotional response to, like, her daughter saying, you did these things to me and it hurt me. As a mother, you know, a normal mother, you would, if your child, adult or not, came to you and had taken the time to write out a letter saying, these are the things that you've done to me, you know, and you're reading that, like, you would think that you would take the time, number one, to self-reflect on these things and do an honest assessment of yourself. But number two, you'd think that you'd be like hurt by that, and that you'd seek to talk to them about it and take, some accountability or responsibility. That's not to say that, everything in the letter is true. We don't know. We haven't seen it. We don't know the full story, but there are things that we can infer based on things that she's not saying, omitting what she lies about throughout the video. She lies numerous times and contradicts things she herself said, which is incredibly frustrating. And it leads me to believe that a lot of the things, her daughter's probably telling the truth and exposing her behavior, and she is refusing to look at herself. So instead, she will come up with excuses for that, and this is somehow an estrangement epidemic. It couldn't be her. It couldn't be something she's done, and that's why her daughter doesn't want to talk to her. Oh, it's an epidemic. It must be these other bigger reasons for it, because surely it couldn't actually be me.
90% of the letter was about politics and how we couldn't be in her life if we supported that guy.
Well, if you look at the letter, and I don't know if she's even actually looking at the real letter in this dramatic reenactment she filmed, but if that's the letter, it looks quite long and well thought out. Like, I don't think that her daughter, and I'll just say this, I'll say it generally, I don't think that people go no contact with their parents for no reason, like for light reasons. Certainly not. And that's not to say, look, for some teenage kids that are going through hormones, blah, 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 some of the early college students, early 20s, they may act goofy over things like this, but we're talking about an adult woman who has gone no contact from her mother, and I do not think that it is just because of something flippant like politics, although there are a lot of issues with families because of the polarization that's happened recently. I don't think that stuff like this happens, though, for no reason. I don't think that people do this for superficial reasons. There may be some narcissistic kids that do that, but I think the majority of them, like, they have good reason, because doing that is hard also, especially in today's climate. It's very hard to for these kids to support themselves financially and gain independence. A lot of them are financially dependent on their parents, and the parents use that to lord over them. So yeah, I think that it's obviously not just that. She says that, but she won't show us the letter where the daughter explains what it's about.
This kind of angry outburst from her was so out of character.
And I want you to pay attention to the body language. I'm not a body language expert, and I'm certainly not a mental health expert either, and I don't purport to be one. I'm simply somebody who has lived experiences of having a narcissistic parent and what that's like. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that experience, right? That arguably I may be more educated on that topic because of my lived experience than somebody who has credentials, right? Than somebody who didn't have personal experience with something like this, but just went to school for a few years and got a certificate. They may, and that's not to discount people who have done that, I'm sure that's good for them, but they may not be able to recognize, because let's be real, narcissists fool therapists a lot. In fact, that's one of their favorite things to do, and oftentimes they are able to do that and pull the wool over on people. So yeah, I think that lived experiences shouldn't be discounted or diminished because credentialism. But anyways, getting back to the topic of body language here. In these dramatic reenactments that they're filming, pay attention to the looks you see on her face, because she cannot, I don't think, control it, again, because of that lack of self-awareness, right? Even though they try to maintain this facade of perfectionism and holier than thou, blah blah blah, superiority, they can't help but that sneer comes out occasionally, the smirk, the narcissistic smirk, the where you can tell they're feeling giddy about the sense of superiority that they feel while they're doing this. You can see it. Where it comes out at certain points, pay attention to that, because you'll see it throughout well, not just this video, but pretty much everything she uploads.
We were shocked. We just didn't know what to do.
Oh, this is the other thing she does that is so disrespectful. While she'll grandstand and claim that she, is respecting her daughter's boundaries and this and that, she basically doxes her daughter. She puts into this highly edited video that she's obviously put a lot of work into, deliberately puts in screenshots like this where you can see her daughter's first name. She says her name. She shows pictures of her. She later says what her profession is. She gives an exact time frame for when her daughter spoke about her on TikTok. She puts in videos, clips in here of her daughter as a child, these child home movies of her daughter, presumably without her daughter's permission, and what is an egregious violation of boundaries. She does this stuff repeatedly, and it's like, this is the behaviors that I'm sure your daughter is talking about in that letter that you won't show us. And we can see it like what you're doing, okay? We know what she's doing. She's hoping that people will put together and figure out who her daughter is, and then go find her TikTok and say, you have really upset your poor hurting mother, please. Like, we've seen this stuff before. They have tricks that they like to do, but when you have been around these people for so long, you are able to pick up on what they're doing, that somebody who wasn't aware of it may not understand, and may just think is an innocent mistake, like, oh, she didn't mean to. Yes, she meant to put this here, and for the exact reason I just said.
I mean, I thought I was a good mom. Not perfect, but pretty good.
And then here is, like I said, she's playing these home videos of her daughter, I'm sure without her permission, and continuously, again, this whole video is a smear campaign on her daughter, because her daughter apparently dared to go no contact with her, I guess, a year and a half ago, and then talk about it on TikTok. And that's what this is about. This is about the mother needing to control the narrative again, exert more control, so she doesn't care she's violating her boundaries by putting this out there. And while she's doing it, she'll pretend that she's the victim here. She's the victim. And, oh, I have no idea. I don't know what I did wrong. The thing that they'll do, and I notice this a lot, not my mother specifically, because she also, physically did physical abuse, right? But I've noticed with some of the narcissists, when they talk about stuff like this, they think that they'll discount their abusive behaviors by they'll saying, well, you were never hit, or something like that. It's suggesting that their emotional abuse, which I think is, the wounds last a lot longer, they act like that doesn't count or something. Oh, I don't know what I did wrong. I was such a great mom. Look at this picture of me holding my daughter. Look at me.
Honestly, I was in denial at this point because I thought this was more a thing between her and my husband, Ted, because I'm not that political.
Again, it's not, I don't think it's about politics. She keeps saying, like, I'm not that political. I thought this was more like a thing, like a little phase she was going through. Look at the condescension. She can't even hide it, really. She's trying to, in these moments where she's filming this, right? You have to imagine she's talking into the camera. She knows she's being recorded, and she's trying to come off as very, like, genuine, and she wants to sound compassionate or, like, empathetic, but you can see that she doesn't really have empathy, and she knows that this isn't true as she's saying it, because later on in this video, as you'll see, the daughter does reach out to the father, not to her. So why would she think that this was more something about the dad because politics? No, it's clearly not about politics, and it's also clearly not about the dad. It's about you. and you just don't want to accept that. And that's what you're in denial about, because that would require self-examination.
At all. So I thought we could still have a relationship.
And again, there she does the facial expressions where she can't hide the dripping condescension that I'm sure her daughter experienced, along with her snide, passive-aggressive comments her entire life.
So one day I responded positively to one of her Facebook posts, like normal, thinking that the letter was just some one-off thing that would blow over.
So what she admits here is that when her daughter sent her this letter and said, I basically am seeking to go no contact with you, I want no relationship with you, here is why you did all these things to me. And rather than take this letter seriously, and again, this is an adult woman, her daughter is not a teenager, we're not talking about a child, although she keeps trying to make it seem that way with how she obviously talks to her daughter and treats her like a child. This is an adult grown woman who is choosing to go no contact with you, and rather than take it seriously, she's acting like this is just, oh, I just thought it would blow over, so I didn't take it seriously. I didn't do any self-examination. I didn't address any of the probably many points that she made. Took no accountability, I'm sure, probably admitted no fault, and then, in fact, self-victimized, played the victim, and tried to probably guilt trip again, or she made a Facebook post, she says, or something like this.
But she unfriended me and followed up with a text that said something like, you don't get to stay in my life. I'm keeping this number for family emergencies only.
And look at as she's doing the dramatic reenactment, you can once again see the contempt in her face, where she is not so much upset that she's not going to be able to have contact with her daughter, like, oh, I'm going to miss her, this is going to hurt me so bad. She's angry, and you can tell the real rage is, how dare you, cut me out? I'm the most important one here. You don't get to be an autonomous adult and make your own decisions. This is like, it's no wonder she wants nothing to do with this woman. She's still not even thinking about taking the letter seriously or doing any kind of inventory of her own behavior and how she treated her daughter growing up.
Don't contact me.
And by the way, she's also kind of making it sound like that message there was somehow like something a bratty child would say or something. It's like, no, she's right. She's an adult, and she asked you not to contact her anymore. She said, I don't want to talk to you, here's why. And you, and the way that you reacted to that by dismissing it, not taking it seriously, you just reinforced to her, like confirmed to her that you're still not willing to change and that she made the right decision. And a lot of times when people are doing stuff like this, like the first time you go no contact with a narcissistic family member, especially if it's a parent, you feel really bad about it. Like, you're gonna feel bad, you're gonna feel guilty, even if they have done all these awful things to you. It's just how normal people who do have empathy and things like that feel. So it's not easy. And for her to do this, like, she should be taking it seriously, but she just can't and won't.
Ted's sister got involved to see if she could help, but...
So again, this is how they tell on themselves. Rather than having a conversation with her daughter, okay, I hear your concerns, and I want to talk to you about this. Oh, no, let me employ my flying monkeys. Like a typical narcissist, let's get my husband's sister involved and try to make her guilt trip, and this is so manipulative, right? This is what they'll do. They will exploit others to gain control over a victim if the victim is saying no, putting their foot down and saying, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. They try to reel you back in. And yes, they will use other people to try to manipulate and guilt trip on their behalf.
Haley immediately unfriended her, which was surprising because the two of them were politically aligned.
Oh, this was so that didn't suggest to you that it wasn't about politics? Oh no. Again, she won't self-reflect. She will not tell us what's in that letter. And as the video goes on, you can see more and more the reasons for that. And so she's, again, being condescending, oh, I thought I could, manipulate her by having somebody that is that she could relate to more, try to guilt trip her on my behalf and reel her back in, but that didn't work. And rather than learn from that, I proved that I am indeed a narcissist.
Friends offered to step in and say something on our behalf, but after what happened to Ted's sister, we just said no. A couple weeks later, she did not wish me happy birthday for the very first time.
Oh, me. She didn't wish me happy birthday because I'm entitled to this. Your daughter is a grown adult. You are not entitled to any kind of relationship with her. And if she doesn't want to be in your life, she doesn't want to be in your life. Like, you are not entitled to that. But, of course, the off-the-charts levels of entitlement that these people have.
This wound was so fresh, I couldn't even say her name when I
So dramatic, please.
Talked about it. I've even had some people really close to me decide to move on from me.
Me. I wonder why. Here's the other thing. If you have this pattern, right, where a bunch of people don't want to have anything to do with you, did it occur to you that maybe, just maybe, you could be the problem? Like, what's the common denominator here in this situation? It seems to be you. And she does this dramatic stuff where she's holding, this is a grown woman, a mother, who is acting like a child, like a teenager. And you'll see, because she is in constant competition with her daughter, like narcissistic mothers are, pathological envy of their daughters. And so here she is trying to, while she's making this video, compete with her daughter, who is a TikTok content creator, by being a content creator herself. And the pity party, woe is me, oh, so dramatic. Oh, this wound, I couldn't even say her name, but I had the strength to sit down by a waterfall and to wear all my fancy gear and to turn my camera around and to, film myself talking about it. Okay, please.
And that's the hardest of all. In November,
she's trying to fake emotion, and that wasn't even a good try. And again, here she is, just once again doxing her daughter, like putting out their personal information. And this really bothers me, and it triggers me, because my mother would try to do stuff like this to me. She would try to do things like publicly humiliating somebody, or involving outside parties to try to impose her will, basically. You'll see.
Texted her that we were going to Montana to see her sister for Thanksgiving and that she was warmly invited, but if
warmly invited,
we didn't hear back, we'd assume she wasn't interested. Silence.
And so now, I'm sure she didn't say it in the way, I don't even know if that email that she brought up on the screen is the actual email that she sent, or if she just typed up something for the reenactment, right? Because I suspect it probably was worded in a very condescending, nasty way to passive-aggressively, using this tragic passing away of a family member to once again make contact when the daughters asked her to make no contact, and to do so in a way that, obviously she's using this death to do this. So she's basically saying, oh, I'm trying to respect her boundaries, and I just had to reach out to her because of this. Okay, she could have had the dad reach out. And again, the way she probably announced this made it sound, she was probably just being rude, as she always is.
In December, I texted Merry Christmas and told her that we loved her. Silence.
she's doing the reenactments again and once again doxing her daughter.
So that winter, I emailed her a few times, mostly personal development stuff that I...
More condescension. It's so unbelievable what she's doing. Instead of talking to her daughter, addressing any of the stuff in the email, she is invalidating her daughter's feelings by sending her these self-improvement videos. Oh, I haven't done anything wrong. How could I? I'm perfect. You just need to work on yourself. Yeah. My mother would do this stuff too. The problem could never be her. It must be you. You're the problem. You just need to get a better attitude. You just need to be more grateful. Like there's always something you're not doing, because nothing you say could ever be valid if it's criticizing them.
I thought she'd be interested in. More silence.
Around this time, I started watching videos on estrangement to see if I could figure out what was going on.
So rather than just talking to her daughter to figure out what was going on, which she already said in the letter she sent, instead, we'll do all kinds of other things to avoid having to look at ourselves. We'll watch these videos on estrangement and make an entire video essay, about how it could be anybody but us.
I did it intermittently because I think I was still in denial, thinking she would just come back in time. And it seemed appropriate to reach out occasionally.
Poor me. Poor me. But this is the other thing. What she's doing here, she's looking at videos from quote-unquote estranged parents, and she feels contempt and disgust for them as well, which you'll see, and she explains. Can't hide the body language. She's always superior.
I let her know I loved her because that's what moms are supposed to do, right?
I mean, I tried to maintain contact. She shut that down.
So you violate her boundaries repeatedly by trying to maintain contact when she said, I don't want contact with you.
The longer this went on, the more real it began to feel, and there was just this cauldron of emotions, horrible emotions, shock and shame, anger.
Look at my wonderful house. Like, that's what she's doing. And I know, like I said, for normal people that don't have experience with these individuals, I might seem crazy for saying this, and you might think I'm being too harsh on her. It's literally what she's doing, because she's trying to outshine her daughter as a content creator, because she's constantly competing with her. But at the same time, she's woe is me, self-victimizing, and getting her sympathy and pity points.
Anger, denial, sadness, depression, betrayal. It was so hard to process.
It was so hard to process. Me. I felt this. I felt that. I felt betrayed. Did you ever stop to think about how your daughter must feel, like, once at all? Oh, let's get this dramatic shot, though. Make sure we get the Smoky Mountains here in the background, and me holding my big mug of coffee, and my big house. Make sure you get the blinds there in the background. Those were expensive, so we want to show those. My mother was the same way. This woman, she reminds me so much of my mother. It's like if my mother wasn't an alcoholic and she was more high functioning, she would be like this. So insufferable.
I joined some parental estrangement groups on Facebook to see how other parents were coping.
Like a psycho. Can't let it go, right? Can't take any responsibility. Can't address any of the points. Can't look at yourself. So we'll do all these other things instead.
And while it was nice to know that I wasn't alone,
I could not spend.
I'm better than those people. I could not associate with them. They're beneath me. That's literally the face she just made.
Too much time there because it was all the same misery that I felt. So horribly sad and depressing. There were just broken hearts everywhere. I could not face all that.
She filmed all of this. She filmed herself, sneering at the other estranged parents and then closing the thing. Ugh, I'm better than that. I wouldn't want to be associated with them. Now watch me walk away and get the shot of my I mean, she's once again showing off. It's so obvious too.
Pain. Sadly, at one point, I had to text her to let her know Grandpa died, Ted's dad. She'd had a good relationship with him.
I was very matter of fact about it. He died. There's a memorial. Here's the Zoom link.
Cold. She's a cold woman. Like, she literally admits that's how she informs her daughter that her grandfather has passed away. Ted's dad died. Here's the Zoom link. She's probably like that her whole life. But when other people are watching, she pretends to be this great, caring, kind person. And then behind closed doors, that's how she really is. This very cold, self-absorbed woman.
This was still during COVID. She did attend, to her credit. We were glad to see her there, although we didn't see her there. She didn't have her camera on and she didn't say anything. She was there.
Oh, poor you. Oh, that must have been so hard for you.
I sent her a text wishing her happy birthday and telling her I loved her.
This is another thing I've noticed with her. It may seem, like I said, weird to hone in on, but she's calling her cutie. That's how she says happy birthday to her. Isn't that a strange thing for a mother to say to an adult daughter, happy birthday, cutie? And I wonder if she talked to her and said stuff like this to her whole life. Like, what does her appearance have to do with her birthday? But for a narcissist, they view their children as extensions of themselves. So if their children look good, then they, by extension, feel good. But at the same time, they'll also feel envious of them and be in constant competition with them because they, narcissistic mothers have they're very scared by the idea of aging and they'll do anything to avoid it. And I think that seeing their daughters makes them feel like they're getting older.
Silence. I was so sad on her birthday. This is a very special day for me too.
For me, of course. She couldn't help herself. She says two, she threw in a two there, but I think she was originally going to say my daughter's birthday was a very special day for me. Maybe this whole video is her talking about me, which is clearly the most important thing in her life, and disrespectfully, again, showing, like, doxing her daughter, showing these videos of her when she was a baby that she may not want out there for, like, public consumption.
It's the day I first became a mother.
I guess that's my way of saying I still love you, I still think about you, but I don't want to intrude in your space. And instead of buying her a present for her birthday every year, it's probably gonna sound stupid, but I buy myself a present for Haley's birthday every year. It's like a consolation prize.
Oh my gosh. Do I have to say anything? I don't even think I need to say anything. Here she is, laying in her fancy hammock, holding this thing, whining about on her daughter not talking to her on her daughter's birthday, and how that's about her. How her daughter's birthday was this special day for her because she became a mother. And then and I love how she says she buys herself, imagine this daughter growing up every year, your mother on your birthday buys herself a present and then calls it a consolation prize. Like, my mother used to outright say to me that I was a mistake, ruined her life, and, you know, things like that. Ruined her body, ungrateful, you know, all these crazy things. Um, Consolation prize, like it indicates the same thing, right? She may not say those things that like my mother would overtly say to me, but that's the implication. The difference is just in the overt versus covert narcissist. The covert one is actually more dangerous than the overt one.
Mother's Day
And then the violin playing in the background. Poor me.
2021 also passed in silence for the very first time. By now, I had moved from shock and shame into feeling this kind of low-level anger.
Yeah, we can tell you're very mad about this. You're very butthurt. And that's really what it's about, is that your victim escaped your control and your constant manipulations and machinations and guilt tripping and gaslighting and all the other awful things that you do every single day.
Definitely resentment.
We know that you have resentment, and I'm sure you've always resented your daughter, probably from the day she was born, and I bet she grew up feeling that, and that's probably why she doesn't want to talk to you.
And yeah, betrayal.
Betrayal because me. I'm entitled to have my adult child in my life, and if she doesn't want to put up with my toxic abuse, then she's betrayed me. These people, like, they're so gross.
My husband may have texted her once or twice that summer, but I did not.
On the one,
She's letting all this time go by. My husband texted her, but I did not. I have made no effort to have any kind of real conversation, and I'm just sitting here waiting for, she's hoping that her daughter caves in and comes back, because often they'll do. Children who've had narcissistic parents, you know, it's like part of them is always trying to get that love and validation they never got. And a lot of times, like, when you're pulling away, the narcissist can sense that. Like, you're starting to become too independent and to figure out what they're doing, and you're starting to exert, you know, you're doing your own things, and they can't control you as much. And so they'll try to reel you back in and hoover you back by showing you a little bit of, like, the things that you've always wanted from them, their approval, their attention, their love, their validation, them to listen to you. They'll give you a little taste of that, trying to get you to come back, giving you the false hope, but they'll never be that person. Like, they call it going back to an empty well over and over again, trying to get water. It's not there. Like, you're just not going to get those things.
Your anniversary of her angry letter, I emailed my sad letter.
And I'm sad versus angry. The way that she describes the daughter's letter isn't valid. The daughter's feelings aren't valid. It's angry petulance when it's the victim is trying to explain how they've been gaslit and abused their entire lives. And her response over a 1.5 year letter is sad. Only her feelings are valid.
Response. I started off with a story about the time I saved her from choking to death on a candy wrapper when she was a baby.
Why did how'd she get the candy wrapper in her mouth? Were you not keeping an eye on her? Like, were you neglecting her? And I love how she starts the letter off with a guilt trip, which is exactly what I think her daughter indicated in the no contact letter that she does.
Which was probably the worst way to start, but I didn't know.
Then I went into
I
I don't know everything, but I did the best I could reasoning.
Then I went on to
They all say that.
calmly address some of the points in her letter.
I did the best I could is the justification for all of their abusive behavior. It's the perfect way to just brush it aside, because they did the best they could.
I apologized for not being the parent she needed, but I also expressed dismay at her level of intolerance.
Which I probably shouldn't have done.
So So she tries to say that, like, oh, in my letter, I tried to address some of her points, but then I expressed dismay at this and this and this. No, I don't believe she even considered anything her daughter said. Her sad letter was her guilt tripping and gaslighting and doing all the things that her daughter said she does. That's what it was. And then look at the video she chooses to show of her daughter as a child. It is a video where in this one clip, the daughter kind of has her hands on her hips and she like a little snotty, like every little kid does. I mean, let's be real at that age.
But I wanted
She
to be
picked that for a
honest
reason,
and
though.
basically just wished her the best of everything in life.
So she said, oh, I wish you the best of everything in life, while she's going to sit here and whine about being estranged all the time and how hard it is for her, while also wanting other people to pay her for courses and classes. Well, in her own letter, she says, okay, it's my way or the highway. That's what she said.
Birthday passed in silence once again,
Me,
which is
me.
sad.
Birthday passed in silence, which is sad because
Because she was the one who always remembered everybody's birthdays in the family, even my dad's, who she hardly knew.
Around this time, we discovered her TikTok.
So it sounds like actually that the daughter was very thoughtful, and unlike you, the daughter remembered everybody's birthdays. She actually sounds more considerate and thoughtful of other people and their feelings and things like that than you do. Oh, but you discovered her TikTok and became immediately jealous and had to compete with her. And that's what you're doing now by starting your own YouTube channel where you can launch this smear campaign on your victim.
Which I have to confess was strange and difficult to digest because she does a lot of exotic cosplay.
And look at the, you know, the sneer. She can't mask it. She can't hide it. The sneer is, it is indicative of contemptuous condescension. She has disdain, you know, for her daughter, and she can't hide that. So that's coming through in that facial expression. You can see the slight curve of the lip. It's a reflection of the smug superiority that they feel inside. Like, oh, you know, she does exotic cosplay, and like we don't really know what her daughter does, but that may not even be an accurate description. She may just be trying to smear her by wording it that way. I mean, we really don't know. But the sneer versus the smirk, the sneer is usually comes out when they perceive a threat to their inflated sense of self-image or sense of self-worth, and when they feel others are beneath them. It's like to dominate and control others, versus like the kind of expression of need for admiration, you know.
And I couldn't help myself. I binge watched a bunch of them.
Stalking behaviors. Again, she, in the video, she's telling on herself. She's showing she engages in these stalking behaviors. This is what these toxic narcissists do. They'll endlessly stalk people's social media. She is sitting here watching her daughter's videos over and over again. Why?
Then combed through
Because
all
of
the
the
comments
envy.
looking for any mention of us.
I was pretty annoyed at being relegated to the status of random internet viewer.
She was annoyed that it wasn't more about her, that she wasn't featured in there more prominently, like that she wasn't getting praised. There was no attention or validation coming to her. It was just going to her daughter, and really she couldn't stand that because, you know, she's in her own mind been in a constant competition with this child since the daughter was a baby.
But I was glad that I could see her.
In November,
I was glad that I could see her. Yeah, you really look like it.
my husband and I caught the super nasty Delta version of COVID. It was truly awful for me, but
Me. How many times does she say me throughout this video? That's another indication, like I said, of how self-referential she is. What that means is how they perceive themselves versus the rest of the world. Like, she sees herself as the center of the universe and everything should revolve around her. That is her point of reference, is herself. She is unable to put herself in somebody else's shoes and see things from their perspective, or to have the perspective to know that she's not the most important thing in the world, and everything doesn't revolve around her. It's just me, 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 me throughout this entire video.
Way, way worse for Ted. We're talking hospitals, paramedics. It got so bad, I texted her.
I told her that she should call Daddy-O because he had COVID and he wasn't doing well at all. He was really struggling and it was scary. She did call, which was a miracle. But apparently she was almost like an automaton.
Again, smearing her again.
Dead inside. I don't know, kind of like a robot.
Dead inside, like a
Ted
robot.
really appreciated the call. Don't get me wrong. Really.
Oh, we're glad you called, but you don't sound like it's just, again, this attitude. This is why she doesn't want to have anything to do with you. She calls and then you smear her as a sounds dead inside, sounds like a robot. Yeah, from years of abuse from you, I'm sure.
I appreciated that call. It meant so much to him. But it was also like she wasn't all there. It was very strange.
Yeah, and she's not concerned about her, though. She doesn't really care, and that's obvious.
Texted her after he recovered to thank her for calling, but she didn't respond. My dad died on Christmas Day, but I didn't bother to tell Haley because she didn't really know him. He was a sweet guy, but kind of an odd duck living in his own world. But he was my dad, and it was really hard to watch him die.
For me,
The one gift that you get out of that typically is that it makes you realize how short and precious life is.
not short and precious enough for you to admit that you did these awful things to your daughter and to say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I take responsibility and I'm sorry for what I did to you.
And I'm older. I'm in my 50s. I mean, mortality is right there. When you're a kid, you look at your parents like these big, all-knowing people. And then when you get to be an adult, you realize, oh my God, they're flawed. And there's a breakaway period where you break away and you're like, get away from me. And then usually there's a period where they come back, and hopefully they will at some point. But just in case they don't, they'll have some videos to watch about who was mom and what did she worry about and what did she think about. And I don't know, maybe nobody cares.
This is insane. And then she even cues the violin music on herself in her own video.
So I was grieving for death.
Poor me. How much are you grieving for your dad? You don't seem to be grieving that much. Like, you're lucid enough to grab your camera and position it somewhere where you can film yourself grieving while glancing down to look into the camera to make sure it's capturing your grief.
Dad that winter, but also for Haley, who didn't seem to care.
So bizarre.
I texted her happy birthday and told her that I loved her.
Again, doing the cutie thing, calling her cutie, referencing her appearance, her looks. What does that have to do with her birthday? Why can't you just say happy birthday? Or maybe something like happy birthday, sweetie, or sweetheart, but cutie? It's such a strange thing for a woman to say to her daughter.
Which was my only attempt at contact that entire year.
Like, that's
Silence.
the only thing she values about her.
So of course I had to peek at TikTok.
So of course I had to unhealthily stalk my daughter's social medias, even though she's asked me to stop stalking her and to leave her alone.
I read all her birthday comments, and she seemed to have a lot of fans sending her presents.
Jealous. Listen to the envy. She seemed to have a lot of fans sending her presents. Look at the pursed lips. She's so mad. Stay
We
mad.
have been replaced by fans.
We've been replaced by fans. Me. I wonder why. Why did she replace you with other people? Maybe because those people actually listen to her and don't make her, feel like none of her feelings are valid. They probably listen to her and validate her feelings when she tells them about how fucking crazy you are. I know what it was like to grow up with a mother like this and to have people for a period of time not believe you. And you you think that you're crazy, or people think that you're lying, or that you're crazy, or and you know the truth, but no one believes you. That's awful. But then, once they start using substances, they become more sloppy, and then people start to realize that you are always right in telling the truth. But this woman, my goodness.
I ordered Joshua Coleman's book, Rules of Estrangement, scanned a couple of chapters out of order, including the amends letter section, which
I bought a book rather than talk to my daughter, do any self-reflecting. I bought a book. I randomly scrolled through it, didn't even read it in order, as she admits to not really taking it that seriously. Oh, look, I'm doing all these things to try to fix the relationship. But you can tell from how she's describing it, she doesn't really care. She's doing it just to say she did it, so she can throw it in her face. I've tried this, I've tried that. Look at me and how great I am.
I could not stomach because it required far too much contrition. Like, it's all the parents' fault.
It required far too much contrition, like, it's all the parents' fault. Yeah, you'd have to take some responsibility or accountability, and oh, we can't have that, so threw that away. So instead, she'll create her own course for other narcissists where they can just reinforce each other's toxic worldviews for a fee, of course, if you pay for a membership to join her community.
we had no contact. I threw myself into a new YouTube channel and took a month-long camping trip around the U.S. After my dad dying and losing Haley, I just needed to get out and start living my own dreams now before it's...
Living my own dreams, me. I'm sure her entire life she probably, told her daughter, you're the reason, that I couldn't do these things, and I sacrificed so much, and me, and what about me and my dreams?
Too late.
She's an adult.
I brought the Coleman book with me on this adventure, but I didn't read it.
Brought it with me, but didn't read it.
I was still low-level bitter and resentful over being ghosted.
Ghosted? You weren't ghosted. She went no contact with you. There's a reason. It's not ghosting somebody.
On my birthday, which passed again in silence, I went for a hike.
And 2 years later, she's still not talking to me. Can't make her love me. I can't make her...
I wonder why. No, you can't make people love you, but you don't seem to love her. You don't seem to really even consider her or her feelings at all, other than you see her as an extension of yourself, and you're mad that she's broken away from your control.
She doesn't want to talk to me. I can't make her call. I can't make her do anything. So I'm just trying to cope.
I'm just trying to cope. You can't make her do something, but you know what? You could try calling and saying, I am willing to listen to you, or I did this. Like, you could give her a reason to want to call, right? By saying, hey, I've taken some time and I've actually reread your letter and I've thought about some of the things that you mentioned and I'd like to talk about this. Can we, she could do things like that, but she won't.
I never in a million years imagined that I would have a daughter who would just cut me out of her life. We did the best we could.
Oh,
we poured a lot of love and resources and time and energy, and she rejected me.
Rejected.
And
like she's a love interest or something. Like, it's not that she's rejecting you, it's she doesn't want to deal with your abusive behavior. If you would just stop these behaviors, you could get her back in your life, I'm sure. But you won't.
It's hard not to hold a grudge.
No, we know you're
Admitting
holding
that
a
I was
grudge.
angry and holding a grudge was
angry.
really hard
We know
because
you're bitter.
that's
We know
not
you're
who I am.
resentful. Yes, it is. That's
I
exactly
binged
who
on
you
her
are.
TikTok
That
again
video
and
makes it
found
clear.
some references to us.
You binged her TikTok again. How many times are you doing it each day? Why will you binge her TikTok all day long, but you won't do self-examination?
Including a video dedicated to what she'd learned going no contact with her parents. I sat down with Ted and
we sat down to condescendingly mock our daughter once again. Look at again, She can't hide the dripping contempt that I'm superior. Let's see how I can mock her for this and belittle her and demean her and how I can do it better. Let me do it better in my YouTube. I'm going to have a better editor. I'm going to spend more. I'm going to put... Like, she's literally just trying to compete with her daughter.
They watched together.
You know, I think the thing
You're
that
laughing at her.
I guess irks me, that whole
Irks.
love with strings attached thing.
Yeah, that's what you do. You don't love her. And everything you do for her has always had strings attached. And she is sick of it. She feels at this point, then don't do it. I'd rather you do nothing for me at all. Because when you do something for me, it's endlessly thrown in my face, which is what the narcissist always does. That's the reason they do things for you in the first place. It's only so they have leverage.
I don't get that. I don't know where that comes from.
I don't want to be with people like that.
Love is...
They love you for who you are, not for who they want you to be.
She was tactful, but the comments supporting her decision to dump us were really hard to take.
Again, using words like reject, ghosted, dump. You're not in a relationship with her. She's an adult woman, your child, who has decided she doesn't want to deal with your abuse.
We also learned that she's been diagnosed with ADHD and high-functioning autism, which was news to us.
You know, maybe that explains some of her behavior. We never knew. If we'd had seen it,
We never knew. Yeah, who neglected her? Why didn't anybody know? And why does she, as an adult, have these issues? I wonder why.
we'd taken her to doctors, but we didn't see it.
Yeah, you're too absorbed with yourself.
She seemed like a normal kid to us.
She doesn't even care how we feel. She doesn't care if we're struggling with this issue. She doesn't care if we're alive or dead. I mean, she doesn't really know.
I wonder why. I wonder why. Will there be some self-reflection here?
I don't hear any, I'm really sorry, there's nothing there.
Oh, she should apologize to you? I don't think so. That's where you guys are wrong. You're not entitled to have an adult child in your life. Period.
I had a mental problem, sorry. She didn't care.
And again, look at this one, look at the faces. She didn't care about us. We're the most important things. We're the ones that matter more than her and all these things she's going through.
She doesn't care still.
They're the most important thing. When she's having a crisis, the daughter, the parents apparently should be the most important thing. And foremost in her mind should be how they feel about it. Oh, and let's cry on video again for more sympathy.
Throughout this whole ordeal, I've continued my daily meditation practice. And afterwards, I usually spend a few minutes reading from some inspirational book. At one point, I was reading about living a compassionate life.
She's compassionate life. You don't display compassion though. You don't have empathy. You can read about these things, you can think about them intellectually, but you yourself obviously don't experience or feel them.
And when I got to the
You
chapter
don't
on
have the
forgiveness,
capacity for it.
wow.
When I got to the chapter on forgiveness, wow, listen to her. That does not exist in her mind.
Lately, I've
That
been thinking
concept.
about forgiveness.
Oh, I'm sure.
Forgiving her.
You forgiving this child that you abused her whole life? Are you out of your mind? Here she is again, doxing this child. She's not even trying to really blur her face. She just is trying to do it enough so she doesn't get too called out for it.
But forgiveness for myself, too. And Ted. But mostly myself.
Mostly me, of course, the most important thing.
Because
to her.
you can't help but blame yourself when something like this happens with a child.
It just happens. It doesn't just happen, ma'am. Adults don't just cut off their parents for no reason. It didn't just happen to you. You are not a passive victim that this is happening to. You play a part in it. There is a reason. And it's
You
your
raised and
behavior.
poured all your love and energy and everything. You know, we just gave her the best of everything we could.
Letting go of our anger is a way of being compassionate towards ourselves. Anger keeps
Giving somebody fancy, nice gifts doesn't excuse your constant abuse.
us stuck in the past, obsessing over what
doesn't
has
make up
already
for it.
happened.
It's not a consolation
Forgiveness
prize.
does not ignore the harm or justify a person's misdeeds,
The
but
misdeeds are yours.
it releases the pain and anger connected to them.
Wow.
I debated texting happy birthday, but did not.
Today is my daughter's birthday. She is 29
It's doxing her age.
and she hasn't spoken with us for 2.5 years now. And that has been very difficult to deal with. But I'm learning to accept it
Whining.
because that's all I can do.
You're not accepting it. This entire video
The
is
last
about
text
you
I
not
sent was happy
accepting it.
birthday last year.
And this is the other thing. She'll say, we've been no contact for this long, and I've respected her boundaries and her wishes. And then she admits that throughout that entire time, she's still contacting her all the time.
So she is lost to us now at this point. And this was not something we ever envisioned for our lives.
You're smiling about it, though. As you're talking about it, you can't help but smile while you're saying it.
Oh God, I'm going to cry. I thought I was going to make it through this without crying. But
Right. Okay.
I can't.
For people who are wondering, this is fake. She's crying for herself, and it isn't real. It's for sympathy and attention. And you'll see that.
It's like she's dead, but she's not. And I'm grateful that she's not. And I am grateful that she's on social media somewhere. If I feel the need to go see her, I can see her.
Why do you need to see her? Looking at her matters more than having an actual conversation with her. These people are
So,
sick. They're
happy
sick in
birthday,
the head.
Haley. I wish you all the best in what you're doing.
More grandstanding.
I admire that you're following your dreams
No, you
and you're doing what you believe is right. And I hope you are loved and surrounded by people who truly love you, not for some persona that you may be online,
don't.
but for who you truly are as a person.
More nonsense of this, like, she's subtly implying that her friends don't actually care, her daughter's friends don't actually love and care about her for who she is, but just her online persona.
And I know you're a kind soul with a really big heart, with so much love to give.
This is so sick.
And so I
Imagine.
hope you find a place to express that love.
Imagine an abuser telling their victim this. How sick is this?
And find someone's who appreciate that love and reflect it back to you. I wish you health and happiness. Just live your best life. Do good in the world.
Just live your best life. Do the piano music in the background.
Just know that I still love you, no matter what you say or don't say about me. You can't change that.
You can't change that.
I'll fucking love you forever, like it or not.
What a psycho at the end. See, she had to get that jab in.
World.
She couldn't maintain the fake crying thing.
Just know that I still love you, no matter what you say or don't say about me. You can't change that. I'll fucking love you forever, like it or not.
I'll love you forever. Whether you want me to or not, I will smother you forever.
Because I'm a mom. And moms are like that.
Moms are like that. Me. Oh, watch this to learn how I move past the pain and then to sign up to my program and give me money to join my community.
Number 1,
All right, now let's get into this. This is hilarious because She's gotten so many comments on that video that we just played and did commentary over, people pointing out her narcissism and literally saying, you are why your daughter doesn't want to talk to you. Here she's addressing the comments of people calling her a narcissist. And once again, like I said, you'll notice that the sneer and the smirk, and this one it's more the smirk, which is it's like a self-satisfied smug smile, and it kind of like emerges when they feel inside that they've kind of like pulled the wool over on somebody, or they've outsmarted somebody. It is to project this feeling of like, I'm invincible, you know, and maintain that unwavering confidence that every narcissist has.
My narcissism diagnosis. I would like to thank all of the legions of armchair, I'm sure, fully qualified therapists who can watch a highly curated 16-minute video.
Yes, we can.
And come to that conclusion.
Yes, anybody, in fact, could come to that conclusion, and many have. In fact, even therapists have commented on your video and have said the same thing to you. Lots of people have been able to very quickly diagnose your narcissism. And the way that that video is, as she points out, highly curated and edited, is itself another sign of your narcissism. It shows the perfectionism and the constant need to exaggerate emotions and all the things that you're doing throughout that video. Yes, these are all hallmarks, and yes, people who have experienced narcissistic abuse can recognize it that quickly. We can diagnose you that quickly, and it's not a diagnosis, it's just an obvious statement. It is obvious and self-evident by your behaviors. They speak for themselves. Go read the definition of gaslighting and then look at what you're doing in the video. These are factually correct.
As a reminder, the platform you are on is called YouTube, which means you as a creator tell your story and you upload your story.
Listen to her smug condescension as she explains to all the people that are beneath her how YouTube works, because if you believe she's a narcissist, you're just ignorant of how YouTube works.
To the platform.
And she has to talk down to you like you're a child. Again, this is why your daughter doesn't want anything to do with you.
And people can share your story or not. But yes, the video was about me. It was from my perspective as a parent going through this experience.
You're not going through an experience. Your daughter stopped talking to you because you're a toxic sociopath. And that's what happened. Like, it's not an experience that just happened to you.
This is arguably one of the most, not the most, but one of the most traumatic, horrifying thing that a parent can ever endure.
Traumatic for her. What about your daughter who endured decades of your abuse? That, again, doesn't matter. Those feelings aren't valid. Those feelings don't matter. All that matters is her and her feelings and her trauma. Her trauma that she cares so little about that she's not willing to simply admit where she's done wrong, admit her faults, like everybody has faults, and take responsibility and accountability.
It is a trauma. If you're a parent and you've gone through it, you know. If you're a parent who hasn't gone through it, you can probably fairly accurately imagine what it might be like. But if you're not a parent, you can imagine maybe intellectually what this is like, but you don't understand. You truly cannot understand the visceral bond imprinted chemically on your entire being with concern for your child throughout that child's life.
visceral bond concern. You don't seem concerned about her. You don't have enough concern to examine your own behavior and agree to change it.
As a reminder, my daughter went no contact, and she talked about that on her TikTok account a year and a half ago. Per her wishes, I have not attempted to contact her for the last year and a half.
Yes, you have. You showed it to us multiple times throughout that video.
So I can't reach out for her side, or I would be crossing boundaries.
You do it all the time.
Which means I don't know what she's thinking.
Yes, you do. She sent you the letter that you won't show people. Show us the letter.
Because I'm not a mind reader.
She wrote you a letter, and it's everything that she was thinking. That's in the letter. You don't have to be a mind reader, clown.
And by the way, that original video was not a documentary. It's a mom's collection of random snippets filmed sporadically over 2.5 years, spun into a story,
creating a narrative. I've cherry-picked things over 2.5 years. And note how she says her daughter's been no contact for a year and a half, but she started preparing this video 2.5 years ago. Let's do a big think about that. And then again, how she put that much time and effort into creating this video, but she couldn't put any effort at all into literally doing like a little bit of self-reflection.
Is meant to convey viscerally my feelings as a mother going through the experience of being rejected.
That's how she refers to this. She still is not understanding what happened or why and what role she played. She keeps calling it things like rejection and these weird romantic relationship terms that is not what it is. She wasn't rejected. She wasn't trying to love somebody and that person rejected her love. She was abusing that person, and that person said, I am not going to allow you to hurt me anymore. That's what happened.
Your adult child after loving them your whole life, and that's what the video is about.
After loving them your whole life. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't think I have to say anything more. I just felt like, as somebody who has grown up with a narcissistic mother, watching that was so triggering and so upsetting, and it really does confirm that, like, yeah, some people will never change. This is how they are. And I've been no contact with my mother for a long time, and I do not regret it, because there was a time I would feel bad about it, like when I was younger, and I would go back and she would do the same thing over and over again, the same disrespectful behaviors, not just to me, but to other people. And then the constant competition, pathological envy, and all the other horrific, nasty things they do intentionally and enjoy it. And you can tell they're enjoying it while they do it. People who haven't experienced it, they don't get it. There are people out there who don't have empathy. They don't have compassion. They don't think about things the way that you do. And the only thing that matters to them is themselves, and everything revolves around them. And this woman is a perfect example of that. If she actually cared about her daughter at all she had to do is reach out to her and address the points in the letter, which she will not show us. She won't tell us what was in the letter. She won't give us even a hint. She won't read an excerpt of the letter. Nothing. There's a reason for that. Because if we heard what was in the letter, I think that we would all agree with it, and we would all say, oh yeah, I can see that in this video. I can see all these behaviors her daughter talked about in this video. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this. I think it's concerning also that she's creating this grifter community where she's gathering other toxic abusers and then giving them justifications for their behavior while charging a fee. I don't think that's a good thing. And I think that this estranged parent community needs to do some self-reflection. Not all of them, but Some of them seem to be people who are just insufferable. And that's that. I'm interested to know what you guys think, though. Bye.